Hey y'all, we are back for another live, and don't sit up all the way. We missed a little bit of our head. Might adjust that in a little bit. Today we are talking underspins, and it's gonna be a good one. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff on the table. You can't really see it.
Yeah, you can't see everything on the table, but we got a lot to run through.
Yeah.
As always, any questions, you always hit them up. You're more than welcome. We will answer anything on that. Where do we even start?
I don't know. How do you want to start it?
Let me adjust this camera because it's bugging me.
Do you want to start? You want me to start on how I
Right, left, straight. Good enough?
Good enough.
Good enough. Now you can see a little bit more of the table.
Yeah.
And I can actually sit up and cut my head off.
Yeah.
What's happening, Paul? No beers today.
No beers.
We're
missing Corey.
We've been 2 baits deep the last couple of times.
Yeah.
And we're not going 2 baits deep this time.
Or do you think we should have some beers? That's the question.
Are you drinking beers with us?
Yes.
Is the question.
Yes.
If you don't know yet, the video just came out earlier today. That's for Berryessa.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. The main reason why we're doing underspins right now is because that is a factor. And Clear Lake is a factor also for underspins. So I figured might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
We haven't done one yet.
Yeah, why not, right?
How
do you
want to start?
I don't know. How do you want to start it?
Why an underspin?
Why an underspin?
Ready to go. Why an underspin?
Wakey, James.
I've had a really rough day today.
So for me, underspin was that bait before the forward-facing sonar minnows and that type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was.
Well, it's actually.
It's very similar, but.
Yeah, it kind of picks off the same kind of fish. You don't need to have scope to pick off those fish.
Correct.
And that's that solo presence, right? Like,
right.
So you got a solo bait that's running out there that is just a vulnerable little thing that they're going to run after. I'd probably say most of my underspin catches are probably near the bottom.
Mine are definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
We can get into all that.
Yeah, we'll get into
There's
that.
definitely
But so for me, it was that bait that's different than the A-rig. I could get it a little deeper than what a jerk bait will go. More of a finessey type bait that we could get into some stuff that will produce catching fish, right?
Yeah.
For me, when I really started,
for the camera.
Yeah.
The
For me, when I started really getting into underspin fishing, it was more like Comanche, New Melones, stuff like that. Comanche, I had a good tournament where I was throwing an underspin and I was catching them.
And that would be the open hook underspin.
Yeah. So for me, I was throwing cool baits back then.
I was also throwing cool baits back then.
I still like them. I still throw them. I still have them in my box.
For those of you
got it.
For those of you that don't know what the cool baits looks like, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, you can see how the keeper is on the top side there. Does it show the mouse on there? It does. Look at that.
Show the mouth.
So the keeper is there on the top side. My one drawback from this cool baits is that when a fish clamps down, it shoves the body of the bait against that keeper, and you can go through a lot of Kitex with how soft they are.
Yeah, you could burn up some baits.
That.
Yeah, you could definitely burn up some baits with it. But for those bodies of water, I was throwing the cool baits in a 1/4 to 3/8 ounce. and even 3/16. And then I was putting a 3.3, the rainbow shad on there in those bodies of water, like Comanche.
For the foothill lakes, yeah.
Those foothill lakes. Even
Yeah,
Berryessa would be.
You can catch them at Clear Lake on rainbow shad.
Right?
It's a good color.
Yeah, it's a great color. But that 3.3, that smaller bait, I actually bought a rod for it, something a little lighter to where I could actually pin them and keep them. I didn't think about bringing rods. Yeah.
We can grab my rods,
Yeah,
although yours are a little bit different than mine.
Yeah. But what's going on, Matlock from South Carolina?
Matlock from deep. Getsy said, "Oh snap, high tech." Yeah,
Yeah.
I've played around a little bit and I know how to share a screen now. So
awesome.
Look at me growing up.
But the technique is one that definitely is going to catch fish, right? And then there's multiple ways to expand that, right? Like you could expand a ton of stuff through underspin fishing, right?
Yeah.
Um,
The underspin that I switched to, I am not in love with, but that is the Ego Pro underspin. And it is a tungsten. Let me share a screen with that and I can show you what it looks like. This has the keeper on the bottom side, like you see here. So when you do get that bite that's across there, it has a really sharp, stout hook. And then you can see right here, there is the like a wire that drops down. You can actually fold that wire in, because this is all hard wire, and you can tuck it up tight to the bait. And when you tuck it up tight to the bait, you can actually run that faster in the water.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have that balance that's off of there. My only beef with this one, I kind of wish I had an old one right now, is that the wire and the head for the wire for the blade and the head will separate enough where they'll wiggle.
But why do you think that will happen?
So I think that is because this is a tungsten head, and when they make jig heads with tungsten, the melting point of the hook itself is lower temperature than the tungsten itself. So they have like a special process that they have to do to form those. And I think that they basically backfill the head to get it to glue down, basically. I am still in search, but that is what I'm looking for mainly. Is I want a stout hook and I want a keeper that doesn't tear the bait up. One of the other baits that actually has that is, but to a degree, I should say, is the Bass Union. And if you look at the Bass Union jig head or underspin, you can see that there is a keeper on the top, but there's also a keeper down below, and you can't really see it. Maybe there, you can see there's keepers coming out the side. So there's 4 different keeper points for keeping that bait around it and set up in like a crisscross pattern.
And like Bass Union does with all their jig heads, you could look at your jig head on there and see. Well, it says it's right underneath it. I don't know if you could rotate it, but
it's on the underside of it. You can't see it on the underside.
But you could actually see what weight you're picking up out of your box instead of trying to keep it labeled in your box. You know, you could actually have the weight on there.
Oh, I don't think I can even.
It's like
there's no way it'll pick it up. But underneath the chin of these is the weight. Like I can look at this and say this is a quarter, and I can look at this one and say it's 3/8. I don't need to guess or any of that stuff. It is on the bait, and that is one of the coolest things about it. Yeah. This also does have a wire keeper. Again, you can bend that wire keeper and tuck it in tighter to the body if you have the room. If you have too fat of a Kitech or whatever, you need that blade to be able to spin.
Yeah.
But if it's a skinnier one, you can tuck it in tight And then that's one of my tips for being able to roll these faster is if you get that blade closer to the body, you can roll it faster and still have it swimming right ways.
Yeah. We got some comments on there.
I don't even know where we left off. One Hand Fishing checks in. What's happening? How can I go fishing with you? Well, join the club.
Yeah.
There's a bass club that we're in, Bass Troopers, and you could join that way. We haven't done any like guest fishing or anything like that. We thought about doing like a guest giveaway kind of thing, but we haven't got that far into it. We probably should.
Yeah, we should.
I tried giving away a hat in 2 videos ago, and nobody commented. That was weird. Not one comment. I tried giving away a hat, an SHF hat. In 2 videos ago, it's the year of big fish catches.
Yeah.
And nobody gets to the end of it to find out anything about the hat. Marlon tags in.
They might now, though.
They might. All the 13,000 people that are watching right now.
13,000.
13,000. Yeah, join the Reapers. Yeah, One Hand says right there. Big John tagging in. And any experience with a top spin?
Yes, I've thrown a spinnerbait before.
Yeah, I've thrown a spinnerbait before. So a top spin to me is a single bladed spinnerbait. I have not thrown it. If I feel like I need to throw that, I just throw a spinnerbait. Most fish eat from the bottom, so if you're adding flash to the top, unless it's a bigger flash, I don't know how much it would make a difference.
Yeah.
Not saying it doesn't work. I guarantee you it works. Absolutely guarantee you it works. And if you have confidence in it, do it for sure.
Yeah. And throwing these underspins, the ones we're talking about right now, with the headed jig, basically, you can
open hook, basically.
Open hook, right? Like you could throw it anywhere, any depth. It's going to be a slower retrieve the deeper you go, but any of those mountain lakes, those clear water lakes, anything like that, they are definitely something that should be in your arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Like
you could throw a mid column, they'll come up and eat it. Yeah. It does absolutely work at Clear Lake.
Yeah.
There's people who are taking these baits and literally dragging the bottom with them, open hook, dragging the bottom and just painful, slow reeling it.
Yeah.
With like an Easy Shiner or a Kitech or shoot, what's the other one? There's a G-Rat one that they've been throwing a lot at Clear Lake. I'm not gonna remember the name.
No. They do have it at Fisherman's Warehouse.
They do. And just slow rolling that thing. And I've actually done a lot slow rolling. And you're basically just mimicking that dumb little shad that's
swimming by itself, right?
And this is definitely something that if they were eating an A-reg and shut down, you can switch to this and they will pick up also. So it's something that's a little more subtle that you could put into there. In a little bit, we'll get into the
Thin Swim by G-Rat.
There you go, Thin Swim.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll get into the heavy cover one, which is a lot of what I do the most of.
Yeah.
A little bit later on. So what are you looking for when you're throwing this? What makes you go, ooh, let me try that?
Well, if the A-rig is just not a thing. So for me, like the A-rig, I need some wind. I need dirtier water. I need cloud cover. I need one of those things to be like going for me to be like the A-rig's the thing, right? Yeah. You could get follows, but if they're not committing, there's definitely something that's not right. So going to that underspin, that next bait would be my thought process, right? Like trying to make it a little more smaller, more like just the fish going by, something that that they might be more interested in, snacking on, basically.
Yeah.
But you definitely want a rod for it, right? Like when I first started throwing an underspin, I noticed that my rod was not the right rod. If they came up, if you don't feel that bite, if you can't feel that underspin, that change, you're not going to hook up because you don't know. And then two, once you're bringing them up, if they jump and you don't have the right rod, they're spitting the hook almost every time, right? So I would highly recommend having a rod. Like this is James's for his underspin. He's got a 3.3 on here, and it's rainbow shad, and that's on that ego bait, that tungsten, and it's a Dobbins Champion 764 CB. What's the CB mean, buddy?
CB stands for crankbait. It's a crankbait rod.
It's a softer rod, but having that rod, having a decent reel that can throw a lighter bait, and then being able to actually adjust your reel, especially with the underspin, because they are kind of lighter. If it is a little windy, throwing those, yeah.
So CB stands for crankbait, and that gives it more of a parabolic bend. One of my problems with underspin is when I feel the bite, I swing, and you need to let them eat it all the way.
Yeah.
So I was getting a lot of short strikes where they actually weren't short striking it. They were fully eating it. I was ripping it out of their mouth before they could get their mouth closed or get it positioned in their mouth.
Yeah.
When I switched to a CB, the crankbait version, it gave that parabolic bend that when I did hit them, it didn't shoot out of the mouth. It would just kind of grab into it. Like it didn't give me that pop to bust their mouth open with the bait. And then that 4-power is lighter with that open hook. I've literally caught a 6 on this, and I was kind of worried with how light this rod was. Thinking, man, I don't know. And then I had a 6, jumped 4 times, and it was barely hooked up, or like it had like the hook was barely in its mouth.
Yeah.
And because the hole was worn out, I should say, and it did perfect. And after that, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm good with this rod now.
Right.
Your open hook version is one of your open hook versions is our generic rod.
Yeah, this is a generic rod that I fell in love with.
It's the 714 Caden. I got a crankbait on there right now, but this rod also does really well for underspin.
Yeah.
This was really good for me, but I was having troubles if they I was pulling it out of their mouth still with this one. I needed that more parabolic for myself.
Yeah. But this rod, for like, say if you're a backseater,
yeah,
this is a decent rod that you could get that I really like to throw spinnerbait on it. I really like to throw chatterbait on it. Smaller square bills.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot for that rod. It's a great multi-purpose rod.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that, if you're fishing, say you're fishing a BAM tournament and you're only going to be bringing 4 to 6 rods, this is a rod that I'm going to be bringing because I can change out baits and be going.
Bring some leader material and change material, or just put whatever material or leader on there you need.
I only fish 1 leader, basically.
Yeah, I'll change it a little bit, but for the most part. For that, what size line are you using for your open hooks?
Probably 10 pound. Probably 10 pound, but I'm throwing mono majority of the time. The only time I throw fluorocarbon is if I'm throwing jerk baits or crankbaits.
Yeah.
And I mean like deep crankbaits. If I'm throwing a square bill, I'm throwing mono still.
Yeah.
I'm not changing it.
I'm at 12 pound fluorocarbon. and the fluorocarbon sinks. My only beef with underspins is that I wish they made them where you could get down, where you could keep your speed up. Like you have to put so much weight on an underspin to keep your speed up while it's really, really low.
Yeah.
That you start losing some of the action basically because that tail can't kick it around enough.
Right.
Still trying to find that zone. If you want to fish 20 foot or less, you're like dialed in 20 foot or less.
Getsy says 6 cents makes a cool weedless underspin.
6 cents makes the axle underspin.
You have one.
I have one. I don't know if it's still in my box. I had a beef with it. There was an incident that I had that I think it's because of the design of it. It's a great design. I've caught multiple fish on it. It works, but there was something I forgot the exact reason, but there was a reason why I stopped carrying it.
Okay, so
for my personal, that is. So, and I think honestly, I think it's because I hit them too hard. I think
you probably do.
If you go softer, you probably don't have any problem. But again, I'm changing rods because I know I hit them.
Yeah. So now, where do you want to go into now? Do you want to?
So
do we go to Kitex? Do we go to
baits,
the other underspins?
Baits that I'd be putting on the cool baits, the sizes of Kitex is anywhere from a 2.8 to a 3.8. I need on these on the Ego ones, I can go up to the 4.2. And then that hook shank, because that one is a lot bigger hook. Of course, I set it back down, I'm sure. If you look at them compared to that cool baits, you can see the size difference between that.
Yeah, you could.
That big hook is awesome until you want to throw a 2.8. Heck, even a 3.3. That's the smallest you can go on that, and it kind of looks a little goofy. Like it gets to be where you're grabbing more body and you're taking the action out of that tail.
Yeah, you're going way deep into the tail.
Grabbing so much of that, and it just looks goofy.
So instead of going with the swing impact, the fat swing impact, why don't you go to the easy shiners?
So that would be the solution, right? Is you go to the easy shiner. But if I want to throw a smaller one, I actually do switch back to the cool baits. But if I know I'm going to throw the small one, I bring a lot more extra Kitex because it's going to tear them up. Like if you're catching keepers on these, it's like one fish.
Yeah, I can get a couple out of it.
You can get a couple, but you're like sticking them sideways and crooked, and like it fillets that middle level.
Gluing them a little bit.
Yeah, bring some
mend it
with you, or some super glue. That would be the other thing, is super gluing the baits on.
I've never done that.
I've played with it before. Super glued my fingers together. It didn't work too well.
I just buy it. That's usually what you do, though. So, in color wise, if we're talking about baits, what color are you gonna? If you had dark skies, muddy water, what are we going with?
So, dark skies, muddy water are two different colors that I'll be throwing. In all reality, I got 5 colors that I throw, period, when it comes to Kitex. Muddy and dark, I'm going to go whitish, which is sight flash. Or actually, the other option would be bluegill flash. So dark presence, light presence.
Right.
Those are the two things I'm going to go after. When the water gets murky, then I switch to, or where it's like starts to clear up, then I have the Ghost Rainbow. I'll still throw this in gin clear water though.
Yes, 100%.
There's times like, basically I got 5 colors here, and I'll throw them. They all seem to work. Doesn't kind of matter. You just kind of have to filter through them.
Yeah.
Threadfin shad is another color, and rainbow shad.
Yep.
Yeah. So rainbow shad. So I've said this before, but if you kind of notice in the colors, see if I can do it. Think I can do it?
No.
I think I can get it all on one hand.
Nope.
If you pay attention to colors, okay, starts out dark, then it goes to medium, then it goes to kind of bright, then it goes to a white, and then it goes to all white. So that's all I'm doing is varying between dark and light, and these are colors that I have confidence in. Can you throw a pro blue in there in place of something else? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you throw anything else in there in place of it? Absolutely.
Me personally, my favorite color that I'm definitely going to have on there is going to be that rainbow shad.
Yeah, that is that seems to be the most generic run through.
And I'm talking like foothill lakes most of the time, right? Like, but that's the color that I'm going to be putting on there. That's the color that I feel like those fish will more likely or not take down.
Yeah.
For me.
But then so what would be your second? What's your color you go to if you think they should be eating it and they're not touching that one?
Ghost rainbow.
You go ghost rainbow next.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree on that one.
And then there I'll have a battle between bluegill flash and threadfin.
Yeah.
That would be my next battle that I'd be having.
And that's gin clear water, typically spring, fall.
Yeah.
Usually when we're fishing that kind of bite.
Yeah. That would be my battle that I'd be fighting with.
I actually, as of really this last year, I didn't really carry sight flash very often. I did. I need to at least put some in the boat because I've definitely had some situations where I'm like,
for like this weekend.
Yeah, maybe this weekend. We're fishing Clear Lake this weekend for a club tournament, which I think One Hand said he's going to Clear Lake. We'll be there, and I don't know what I'm going to do, honestly.
Yeah, me neither. I'm going to go fish, go have a good time.
We're going to go up. I'm going to go up Friday, or we're going to go up Friday. We're not fishing with each other, but
no.
We're going to go up Friday and pre-fish, and I could be anywhere on that lake when it comes tournament time.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Who are you fishing with?
Fishing with Brooke.
So you're going to smash them then?
Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah.
I got to get a limit first.
You got to get a limit.
I honestly don't know if I'm going to get a limit.
Why not?
Yeah, we'll have fun, though. I'm not worried about that part.
Going to Clear Lake this weekend, what should I throw and where? Have no clue.
Yeah, we just talked about that.
Yeah.
No honestly,
where, but
underspin.
Yeah.
Underspin this style, which is the open hook, and then underspin this style, which is the flashy swimmer, which we'll get into next. That is the two underspins that will be on.
Yeah.
This style is if I'm fishing open water, obviously, and then and maybe deeper water. She's gonna bring the magic sandwiches.
Yeah, she's gonna make sandwiches.
Yeah, Brooke just makes sandwiches this week or this weekend.
She's
self-elected or not self-elected. What do they call that? She's been appointed.
She's been appointed. It wasn't
appointed the sandwich queen.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the only reason why he's asked her to fish with him.
Yeah,
sandwiches.
Well, last time I fished that lake with sandwiches, it was a pretty good day.
Yeah.
So,
voluntold.
Voluntold. There you go. Voluntold.
I did voluntold. Told her that she's going to fish.
Oh, Camo Joe checks in too.
So all the underspins that we just talked about previously are not a good underspin most of the time when you're fishing, say, the Delta.
Wood.
Grass.
You can do it in rock. They'll bounce through rock. Every once in a while you get stuck, you pop them out of it. They'll definitely, I think if you slow roll, you can actually tick that blade, or what I think is happening down there. You tick the blade on there and it kind of actually kicks the bait up off of the ground.
Yeah.
So it kind of keeps it clear. I mean, every once in a while you're going to stick the ground, period.
Yeah. So what's the next thing you're going to?
So now the complete opposite. So that would be open water. The complete opposite is combat style, jungle style. That is
the best,
the funnest.
Yes.
More funnest. There you go. The better grammar, more funnest.
No, it's just the best.
And that is, I'll even grab a big one so it's easier to see.
I got a 8.
That's
a 10.
That is the Flashy Swimmer. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Share screen.
Yeah. Why don't you go high tech?
Share screen. The Flashy Swimmer. So you have a screw lock that's in the front. You can screw your bait into, and then you hook it in there, just your normal Texas rig, and then you got your bait in there. There are different blades that you can put on this. So you can get the Colorado, you can get the Willow Gold,
which is right here.
I will say myself, I only use Willow Gold and Willow Silver. I don't actually own any of the Colorados.
I do.
It's probably my fault. I probably need to. So, having those, the whole premise of this is if I put this and tie this on and I put my bait on there, I can actually not even have to Texpose where you bury the hook that's in there, like into the back of the bait. And I could throw this anywhere and it'll climb back out of it.
That's not really an underspin though.
This one isn't an underspin, but I have the underspin version. I just couldn't grab it that fast. It's gonna be buried. Yeah. So I can run this bait and it will not hang up on anything, and even leaving it open. I should just show an example. That
Right.
makes more sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense to show them, Vanna.
We're on fire.
We got all high tech, and you forgot to show them.
Oh, I can't walk around the rods that got in my way.
Train wreck.
Okay, so you can see this bait right here, right? If I push down this at all, that hook comes out. But if you look, that's right there. That hook is inside here. I can run a tule, a whatever, and it won't grab as you do that. But as soon as they eat it, boom, you're stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I do Flashy Swimmer is because they are sharp hooks. They're durable hooks. I can put 20-pound line on this, and I don't stretch anything out. I'll break it off first.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, and you can fish them smaller, right? Like this one right here is a 1/8 ounce Flashy Swimmer, where I could, if you pair that, and see how small that bait is, or the hook, I could put that with the 2.8. Not a problem. And to size them, that's what you probably should be doing, is grabbing the package at the store and then putting them next to the bait so you could see how big you could throw it, right? Like what's it going to match up to? You definitely need different sizes, right? Like I got definitely different sizes here where I'm matching what bait I'm going to throw it in. I'm going to go more 3.3 with this one, 2.8 with this one.
So they make a 1/0, a 3/0, a 5/0, a 7/0,
6.
I think a 6. Yeah, 6, a 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Yes.
12 is, or 10, I think.
And
might not go 12, but I think they do 12. But as a mondo, that's by the time you get to there, that's major swim baits.
Well, so I brought some. I brought some stuff, right? Like 5.8 Kitech. 6s. I could throw a 6 with that. I could match it up and throw a 6. If I really wanted to go bigger, I could throw the 8. Not a problem with that, right? And throw that 8 on there and just huck it. Now, am I going to throw it on a little bigger rod?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it weighs more, so you want to put it on there.
More. I'm going to throw it on there.
For the most part, though, I would say my bread and butter Flashy Swimmer that I throw is a 3/0.
Yep.
With a 3.8 on it. And I just chuck it around the Delta. And
Clear Lake too.
And Clear Lake. But like like I said, when I say you can throw it through everything, you can throw it through everything. It is a little rock crawler.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll do is I will chuck that thing out. I will let it hit the bottom. And these ones, I'd probably say realistically, it's really hard to fish deeper. The 3/0 or the 3/0 one. It's hard to fish deeper than like 15.
Yeah.
But you can slow roll it, and where you're like, almost like you're swimming in, like not swimming a jig, but dragging a jig.
Yeah, on the bottom.
And they'll just thump that thing.
Yeah.
With that heavier setup, it's a heavier hook, all that. I actually throw, this is a 765 CB champion. So if you paid attention, the last one was a 764 CB.
Yeah.
And this one's a 765 CB. So it's one power up. Again, it's got that parabolic bend for me.
That's what you need.
And I can bring any fish out of the thickness with it. It has enough backbone in any of it. Basically the only reason why I ended up with the 730 or 765 is I messaged what's his name? Guy caught the 210s at Clear Lake. Fisherman Wilson. I messaged Fisherman Wilson because he was throwing whatever and he like stuck every fish. And I'm like, man, he's doing really well. And then he tells me it's a crankbait rod. And I was like, crankbait rod? Like I'd been checking a lot of rods looking for a specific bend. I picked up this specific one and was like, oh, I didn't even think about a crankbait rod. It has the right bend to it. And then when I was trying to find one for the open wire or open hook one day I went, why don't I just try the next size smaller crankbait rod? And it ended up being perfect.
Yeah.
You have thrown this one. Did you like this one or not like this one?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. What one do you throw? Do you know what you throw?
No, it's what's that jig rod that I just picked up?
The 735. You throw the 734 Sierra.
Yep, I throw the 734.
Yeah, 734 Sierra is what you throw.
Yep,
that's Dobbin Sierra.
Yep.
And then also you can run any Kitex. You can run the thin swims. You could run the easy shiners. My bread and butter though is more than likely at least a 3.3, and then up to like a 3.8. It's kind of my normal.
Yeah.
That I run on the flashy.
And if you're going to target an area, what areas are you going to target with these more of these flashy swimmers?
I want to put it in open pockets or like just tule, like sparse tules where the tules are like spread out where you can actually get like a bait through it. I'll be reeling it through the tules enough where my line is actually doing this through the tules. And then the bait comes out ping-ponging through them.
Yeah.
And then just slow roll it right through there. And they'll be inside those loose packs. And you'll like hit like a pocket of those and then boom. And then I'm throwing that on 20-pound fluorocarbon and 30-pound braid. There's always a leader. I have Strait ran it, but it goes back to ripping hooks out of them.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me? Same thing in the Delta. I'm going to throw it in all this stuff. I actually watched James one time at Clear Lake where the weeds were coming up and they were topping out, but they weren't like super. It wasn't like everything was matted out. There was holes and stuff in it, and he threw a flashy swimmer, and I think he pulled out like a 4 or something.
Yeah,
he was basically just. It was coming across the top of the water. It hit a pocket. It'd go a little bit and go out. And man, it smoked it. It smoked it. But that's the type of stuff that you want to do with them, right? Like you want to throw them in all that cover. You want to get that bite out of that cover because with the flashy swimmer, it's so durable that you could throw it in almost any type of cover and get it out. And
And
that's one of those things that you really want to do sometimes, right? Like those thought processes of all this cover is right here. I know there's water, there's depth under the cover. How am I going to get something in there? More of something where I could cover water, and keep it moving, right? Especially if the fish are eating bait fish, right? Like they always eat crawdads, but man,
yeah, if you look at this bait, so I had to change this bait, not because it was torn out, but because it had been on the hook for so long that it was actually leaving rust marks where it was like discoloring the bait. If you look at this one, there's slight discoloration right where the hook is. Like there's a slight discoloration on there. And that's from this bait being on there for so long. And it's not because I haven't been throwing it. It's because
you could tell that bait's been chewed up.
This bait is chewed up, and it like these Kiteks last forever on these things. Like you want to talk about having a Kitek actually last for once. This is one tactic that it actually just pushes it right out of the way. And I think it's actually better once this little point gets worn out enough that it just swings down. You put it like that, it'll stay like that. You throw through all this stuff, and then that bite, right? So I won't. The only time I ever change these is when I'm changing colors. Otherwise, I probably put this Kitek on this thing, I don't know, probably 9 months ago.
Yeah, probably
been a while. I'm trying to think of the last time I actually changed it.
And yes, Camel Joe, it's probably the salt on there that's and the water that's making it rust a little bit.
Yeah, and there's a little bit on the hook, but
well, it came from the hook.
They're beefy enough. No, I mean like rust actually on the hook surface itself. Yeah. They're beefy enough. I'm not that worried about it. The point's still not rusty and as sharp as can be. That's the other thing is I've caught a lot of fish off of this underspin itself, and this like will legit stick my finger.
Yeah.
Because it's so well protected, it doesn't even hit the rocks or trees or weeds or whatever.
Yeah, and you could throw it like clear like through those rocks, you know, right? Like the rock patches, get it down there. You did it one time when it was a slow fishing, and I was throwing drop shot and stuff like that, and you threw a underspin up there and just slow cranked it through, and I think you caught a 5 then too on it.
Yeah, it was over 5 before 5s were cool.
Like,
before everybody catches a 5.
Yeah. But
it's like Oprah up there now. You get a 5. You get a 5. You get a 5.
I hope so. Hope I have 5 of them.
But that was the same thing. I was actually throwing this flashy swimmer, and I threw it out into the depths. We were up on top of the hump, and I threw it into the depths, and then was just slow rolling it up the depths and just slow climbing it. And then there's a rock in that area, and I was near that. Yeah, and as soon as it got near that rock, it just boom. And then you just give them the screws, and
hopefully your partner has a net.
That's the other thing is usually I don't lose very many fish once they're stuck on that bait. I don't lose very many of them.
Yeah,
that does happen. I mean, you always lose fish sometimes, but it very rarely do I lose a fish with it.
There's been times that I've been throwing. I did it during a tournament one time with Corey, and I was throwing this, and we're at the Delta, and I saw the fish come out. Like it was an April tournament. I saw the fish come out at it, and it turned around, went right back in, and I was like, man, maybe it was the flasher because it was shallow, it was clear water, it was sunny. You could take this flasher off in a second. And I took the flasher off, turned around, fired it right back in there, and I stuck that fish.
Yeah. Came back at it.
Came right back at it.
Yeah, and that is the one thing. As long as you don't lose the flasher, you can take those off
and put them right back
and just use it as a regular one.
Yeah.
Last little bit is a beast hook version of the flashy swimmer.
Yeah.
So that you can throw mag draft or other 6-inch soft body swim baits. Again, talking about a full wheel drive version of a swim bait. I will throw this through the trees, through whatever at Clear
Oh,
Lake or
man.
Delta, and just slow wind this thing around. The
Paul.
flashy swimmer, yeah, Paul's
Paul
seen
has
it.
watched me do
Matlock's
this.
seen it. He's seen me do it. Paul's watched you do it. And again, the confidence that it gives you that you can throw it into anything is the most important part.
As far as you could throw it up into those tulies.
You do
It
have to
doesn't
remember
matter.
though that if you stick one,
You got to
and
go
it
get it.
doesn't come out, you're going in.
Yeah.
So that's what you're doing, right? Like you stick it, you try to reel on it, it's not coming. You can tell it's hung up in tree, tule, weed, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're kicking the trolling motor up and you're going in at it.
Yeah. Full drive.
Four-wheel driving with the trolling motor. So just be ready for that if you are going to do that backcountry stuff.
But man,
it's fun though.
Oh God, it's fun. I stuck probably 10 fish last year doing it, and I stuck some really good ones. I stuck one in the tulies that it completely locked me up. And you know, again, like he was talking about, this bait's just ping ponging through the tulies, just moving through, going out, and I was probably in a foot of water, and it stuck so hard that all I could do is lean on it, and there was nothing I can do. I could not move it forward. I couldn't, and I went towards it, but it definitely came off. But I don't even know how big it was, but it was a thing.
When I switch up to the 6-inch swim baits, I throw a Recon Elite 795 or 796. Sorry, so it's a Phoenix Recon Elite 796. 6 power seems like a lot, but Phoenix runs a hair light. So like a 5 power on a Dobbins is about the equivalent of a 6 power on a Phoenix.
Yeah.
They run just a little bit lighter in their numbers. So Paul says 2 inches of water.
Yeah.
Enough to get the water over their back, and that's all fish care about.
That's it. Like the one that Paul saw, that fish came up and just spun on it. The hook was in the bottom of its jaw.
Yeah.
It didn't come up and try to, it just spun on it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the fun ones when you actually like it's hooked and it's kind of funny, and you're like, how did they?
Yeah.
If this is upright, how's the hook down there? And then you realize they're like fighter jetting.
Yep.
When they grab it.
Top Gun.
This is my favorite 6-inch bite rod, and I've gone through a couple of them. This
You
one
might have broke one
money
on a video.
I've definitely snapped one. Throwing a 6-inch mag drift.
Yeah.
And snapped it. I don't think it was an underspin that time though.
I actually bought one of these rods because I liked it.
Because I raved about it too much.
Well, it's not like I don't throw your rods every once in a while.
Yeah. But yeah, it gives you that time to get that hook set in. Yeah. And it has plenty of backbone to get them out of whatever crud you just threw that bait into. And you're thinking, where your partner looks at you and goes, what are you going to do if you catch a fish? And you go, I don't know.
We'll figure it out in a minute.
We'll figure it out.
Yep. And luckily, like Paul was right there, netted the fish. It was great. It was a good trip. Except for the ride back to the ramp.
And that is a 300 series reel that I throw on that.
Yeah.
It's got a bigger crank. You throw a 200 on that, but with a bigger crank.
Yeah.
He just likes the feel of that 200 Super Duty.
I like the little smaller in the hand. I feel like I got a better grip of it. A little lighter too.
I throw the 300 on it. I just want to be able to huck a chuck that thing.
Yeah.
Have plenty of line in the reel to be able to give it a long chuck. But that bigger crank seems to help a lot.
Yeah.
With those heavier baits, it just gives you a better advantage.
And then
trying to do it with the smaller one.
These the flashy swimmers, the Beast Hook flashy swimmers, you could go 3/4 ounce.
Yeah, they have some heavy ones.
They got some really heavy ones. You could actually get down into the water column a lot better. You're not going to do that with a mag draft, really, right? Because mag draft has to have a certain speed, right, to work good. But if you're throwing something like a big Kitech and you want to get it down, and don't be afraid to throw that big Kitech. I've seen people throwing a big Kitech like that in multiple different areas, Lake Berryessa, Comanche, Clear Lake. I've seen that people
Malone,
use that
Pedro.
and it work, right? Throwing that bigger Kitech when you're like, man, that's a big bait for.
And for those of you that don't know what he was referring to on that speed, so on a mag draft is kind of a one speed bait.
Yeah.
And by one speed bait is as you're reeling your speed, you'll see that tail kick. As that tail's kicking, there is a very certain speed where while that tail is kicking, you actually see the head doing a little knob.
Yep.
Or like a head nod kind of thing of side to side, where it's kind of a cadence between when that tail's kicking, the head is moving also.
Right.
And it just gives that wag. That wag is, for some reason, a trigger for those fish.
Yeah.
So you want to reel that speed and you're just looking at the head. The tail doesn't necessarily matter. You want to watch that head wag. So you just want to see that.
Yeah.
And that's the speed that you want to go. So you just kind of remember it of how fast you're going, and then you give it a chuck, and then you reel it in.
It's actually something I'll actually, when I tie it on, I'll throw it out like 10 feet and just reel it and look at it just to see what the speed is. Same thing I do with the jerk bait, right? Like if I change different sizes of jerk baits, I'm going to throw it out there and see how hard I need to hit it or whatnot, and see how the cadence is, how the bait's reacting in the water before I actually throw it out there to get those fish, right?
Yeah. And that speed thing is definitely on there. There are other baits that they make that have been like they call them knockoffs, but they are different. They all have their own little thing. They're basically just a 6-inch swim bait. I think there's the coal shad. There's a couple other ones. I have not played with them. Actually, you did the Zaldangerous one.
Yeah. I actually really like that one. Yeah, and
that one you can actually, it has a wider variety of speeds that you can hit, and it has different depths, so you can actually control its depth.
Yeah.
And these ones, if you weight them down and you reel them up, they kind of all keep, when you try to go to that specific speed, they all kind of, like, no matter how much weight you add, it doesn't really sink it down in the column very much. The Zaldangerous version will let you stay lower in the column and still reel at the higher speed.
Yeah, so you could
it's
throw
not
it.
Light, though.
No, it is not light. You could throw it at that, 20, 30 foot
get
area. You could get it down there and swim it. And then on top of that one has a line through. So because it's heavier, if you do hook a fish, the hooks will come out of that bait to where they can't use that bait to open up that hole.
It's not necessarily an underspin.
No.
But it is along that line of this side caveat.
Yeah, it was, I'm getting in the weeds now.
Mag draft colors, since we're deep enough into this. Whiteback shad, IU, and brownie are the three colors that I throw the most. What was that one? IU. Yeah. This one works clear waters. All three of them work at those ones. There's I think that's it. Just those three colors are the ones that I hook up with the most. Yeah. Whiteback shad and IU are my number ones that I will cycle between if I think that they're eating them.
And just because they are mag drafts, we are using the freestyle ones.
Yeah.
Right. Don't go buy the pack.
The harness style.
The harness style where it's just one bait in there, because that is a treble hook hanging off the bottom. You cannot throw it through crap.
They will grab everything.
Yeah, it will grab everything. And so it's the mag draft freestyles that you want to pick up.
With Beast 8-aught?
8, yeah.
Yeah, 8-aught Beast. Flashy or regular.
Yeah.
With that mag draft. And then I do the same thing. I do not text pose this. I leave that hook open off the top, and I can throw it anywhere. You don't need to bury that hook point in.
Yeah.
I will say this though. I'll give you one last little tip on the mag draft. I will actually. Why don't I just grab the bait
Yeah. Why
again?
don't you grab it
Why don't I just grab it?
and show them?
I will actually bend the tip up of this hook. I will not leave it factory. So if you look at this bait, if I can get it on there straight, I want, still not on there straight. I guillotined it. Sorry, guys. I want my finger to barely catch it while I'm dragging it across. Of course, it's not on there. So the reason why is I want to be able to skin hook them on there. Like you can see my fingers grabbing it. But just enough. If you put it up too much, it will grab every tule that's out there. It will grab every rock that's out there. But if you put that just enough, if you leave it down all the way factory setting, this bait is stiff enough that they can't always get the bait out of the way to get a hold of that hook point. And you get a lot of fish that are skin hooked inside. So basically they'll come up and jump and your bait comes out.
Yeah.
As soon as they jump, they're out. Ever since I took that hook and I bent it out, which these beast hooks, you better grab a hold of it with some pliers.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot to do that. But you just open that hook up just enough, not a lot. And now it'll just grab that skin just barely. And then as that bait moves out of the way, it sticks solid into it.
Yeah, these are some big hooks that you're throwing.
Yeah, I would not want to get one in my hand.
No.
I don't know who put this one in crooked, but they did a horrible job.
That was definitely you.
Oh, yeah, I was way off on my line.
Yeah.
We got anything else? Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Any questions out there?
We don't want to go through all this stuff. It is by far one of the funnest things to do, though.
Especially when they're shallow.
Yeah. You do not have to throw that flashy swimmer around cover. You can throw it solo. It doesn't matter. They'll pick off, just like if you're throwing an open jig.
Yep.
But then you have that confidence of being able to run it up through anything you want. I think that's it.
I think that's about it.
The food time?
I'm definitely hungry. You know, I can eat.
If you guys have any other questions, you can always hit me up on Instagram and ask all of them. And if you haven't watched the videos, the last couple of weeks of videos, if you are interested in winning a hat, or
leave a comment.
You gotta leave a comment. Watch the end of that video for the year of big fish catches. The end of that video has the how to win a hat. Well, yeah, that's fine. It's 20 pounds. It's fine.
Flora.
When you're yakking them, it's fine.
I'd be scared.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a really, really long day. Again, if you have any questions, you could ask them down below. You can always hit me up on Instagram. And until next time, I hope you get them.